Welcome back to another episode of A Psychologist's Casual Review, and today we're going to be reviewing a very interesting book, which is Pierre Delion's Phoric Function Holding an Institution. I've translated it into French. I don't know if it's been fully translated into English, but it's a very, very interesting book on many aspects. But first and foremost, I need to make a little disclosure about Pierre Delion, which is, if you don't know, a very controversial figure because he's one of the main backers of the packing method for people with autistic spectrum disorder. And basically, from what I know, it's been heavily criticized by the scientific community. I've had teachers who have been very, very prone backers of packing, and I myself do not know enough about the subject to form an opinion, even though I would be cautious about basically giving it a pass. So there's my opinion. And my opinion on Pierre Delion is that he's done a lot of things, he's not just done that. And we're going to focus on one of his works that doesn't talk about packing, which is the Phoric function. And basically how it plays into the taking care of people. Because that's what it is. The Phoric function for Pierre Delion is basically the idea that it's up to the institutions and the people that are the professionals within the institutions, be it the psychologist, the nurse, the psychiatrist, the educators, the instructors, so on and so forth, to be able to take care of the patient. But it's not just taking care in that physical way. A bit like if you've ever read Spitz with his idea of children, it's not about just physical care, it's about mental care. And that is what the Phoric function is. The Phoric function is that idea that we care mentally for the people, that we create some metaphors in order to be able to bear the pain with them, to be able to experience things with them and not just as true distinguished people. And for Pierre Delion, it's very important that everyone within the institution carries this Phoric function. It's not just the psychologist or the psychiatrist in charge of the psychotherapy that does it, but really everyone is part of it. And that Phoric function can be a metaphor, it can be a contact, it can be daydreaming with the patient about the future, it can be really, really a lot of things. And what I found wonderful is that in this idea of the Phoric function, he goes back to Winnicott, Winnicott has the idea of holding, which is a way of giving a profound and deep sense of security to the infant and the baby. And basically that's something that I found very valuable in the book, that it's about how to develop a sense of security for the patients. And patients, there can be a whole range of people, not just children, but also adults, even people that are homeless. I mean, it really is like a full spectrum of people which can be helped by a common metaphor. And when I mean that, I don't mean that like just we take an image and we heal people through that image. It's more about the ability to imagine, to daydream with the people we have with us, and how we as an institution carry the people we have. And basically it's not just a taken care of as the humanized or structured way of doing things, or even, God forbid, robotic way of taking care. It's a true compassionate care that re-injects humanity. And I felt that the book was very, very interesting on that side, because basically, if you don't know, at least in France, and I'm sure in a whole range of Anglo-Saxon countries, there's been a whole movement of deinstitutionalization, the idea that institutions were wrong, and that they were preventing people from being taken care of, and that care had to come from the community. Now that we're about 40 years into deinstitutionalization, basically there's been a lot of issues. Basically, institutions are, I think, a net positive for the whole society, and not just for the patients but for everyone, because they provide something of care that cannot be provided just by families or just by communities, but need professionals that have an experience, have a technicity. That doesn't mean that you have to be technical, but it means that basically you have to have people that are in a way there to provide the care. Because the problem with families taking on the burden is that often they're pressured. They have to stop working, or they have to adapt their work, and in a way that kind of impedes their own life. And at the end of the day, it can become very stressful for the family to have to manage an extra person on a daily basis. That's why institutions are so fundamentally important. And I'm a bit going sideways with this because it's not really in the book, but I felt that the book was a cry for having good institutions, not just any institutions, but good institutions that are going to take time to care, to do the procedures of course, physical care, but also mental care through that phoric function, through the holding of the patient, through the fact that we giving them, as the institution, as all the people that compose it, a deep and profound sense of security. That it's no longer about one individual or individual to individual. It's about how a system, a whole system, can take in a role of a caring parent. And for that, I found that book very, very interesting. And it's something that I, for myself, working in institutions for virtually now the better part of 10 years, I found that very, very profound and very true. That basically that idea of care is with everyone in an institution, even people that you would not necessarily think of their care, but people like the technicians that fix stuff in institutions, the secretaries, they also englobe within this phoric function with that idea that they see the patients and they can help the patients through acts of kindness, through a daydreaming that's shared with the patient, like, oh, what are we going to eat tomorrow, for example? And then we start asking questions. And all of that rehumanizes people that often are excluded or put at the margins of humanity. And that's the whole point of this book, and that's why I loved it so much, is because it re-englobes those people, that humanity that often we lose when we just focused on tasks or things to do or acts to give, like, for example, acts of psychotherapy. It's not just the psychotherapy, it's the whole relationship that's important, and not just to the therapist, but to everyone within the institution, and how those relationships help the person grow and go beyond because they have achieved a sense of security, a deep sense of being cared for through that phoric function, which works for the whole institution. And he also says that basically institutions that are in pain because the professionals can't cope or are in conflict, that phoric function can help bring people together. And even though I find it harder, because what's always harder in the institutions are the relationship between the professionals rather than the relationship with the patients, strangely enough, because you would think that that was the hard part, but that's the easy part. The hard part is with the others and the other professional. And that's the interesting part, is that he says that through that common metaphor, we can dream together and be able to overcome our differences, our complexities, or our misunderstandings. And I found that very helpful and very hopeful as well, should I say. And basically, that's the whole point of this book. I felt that it was something that was opening hope rather than closing it down. And I know that a lot of people will dismiss Pierre Delion as some kind of archaic and virtually a bad influence, but reading this book, I really didn't get that bad influence. I felt that it was a very good influence, a very positive way of seeing things, and a very liberating thing, because that's the whole point. That basically in our modern societies we are so forced in to do something technical, to do something that has an objective standpoint, to achieve a goal. And he's saying there's no goal to be achieved It's about being there with the patient, dreaming with the patient, sharing a moment with the patient. And I found that just relieving, that we're not into this for the metrics, we're in for the patients. And that was wonderful, the book. So I hope you liked this review. If you have any questions or anything you would want to know, please feel free to leave a comment. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.